The case of Ronald O'Brien, also known as the Candyman, is considered one of the most gruesome and wicked in modern U.S. history. On Halloween night in 1974, O'Brien took his 2 children trick-or-treating in their Pasadena neighborhood. After collecting enough candy, it started raining, and they headed back home. At one of the houses, the children didn't receive any candy, but a little later, O'Brien gave them Pixie Stix candies, claiming he went back to the neighbor's house and got them. Upon returning home, Timothy, O'Brien's younger child, tried to open the candy but had difficulty. O'Brien helped him, and the boy ate it before going to bed. Shortly after, Timothy complained of severe stomach pain, started vomiting, and convulsing. He died on the way to the hospital without regaining consciousness. The incident shocked the entire town, and parents started inspecting their children's Halloween candy. 4 other children, including O'Brien's daughter, were found with the same Pixie Stix candy that was laced with a fatal dose of potassium cyanide. Detectives traced the poison to O'Brien, who had massive debts and had insured his son's life for $20,000 before killing him for the insurance money. The case gained national attention, and O'Brien was arrested, tried, and sentenced to death. He maintained his innocence throughout, but evidence proved otherwise. Demonstrations and strikes were held in the city and the prison where O'Brien was held. On March 31, 1984, he was executed, and over 300 people gathered outside the courthouse, applauding and shouting in approval.
On the night of October 31st, 1979, Shirley Ledford, an 18-year-old girl, was hitchhiking in Los Angeles, hoping to reach home after attending a Halloween party.
Unfortunately, her plans were thwarted when a van pulled over and 2 men inside offered her a ride. Shirley got into the car, but things took a horrible turn as the attackers tied her up at gunpoint and raped and beat her for 2 hours. They recorded the entire ordeal on a tape recorder. After the assault, they killed Shirley by hitting her with a sledgehammer, strangling her, and dumping her body in an empty lot. The next day, Shirley's body was discovered. The autopsy revealed signs of rape, broken bones, and missing teeth. This heinous crime caused panic in the city, and the police launched an extensive search for the culprits. Detectives managed to capture the 2 men responsible, Lawrence Bittaker and Ray Norris, on November 20th of the same year. It was later discovered that they had more than 5 victims, with the youngest being only 13 years old at the time of her death. Roy Norris, who testified against his accomplice, was sentenced to life imprisonment and died in prison in February 2020. On the other hand, Lawrence Bittaker, who never admitted his guilt, was sentenced to death. However, the sentence was appealed, and he spent the rest of his life on death row until he died in 2019. Before his death, he acknowledged the gravity of his crimes and expressed a desire to find the meaning of life.
In 1975, Martha Moxley, a 15-year-old girl from Connecticut, was found dead in her backyard after attending a costume party the previous night. She had been bludgeoned to death with a golf club, and her jeans and underwear were missing. The case caused a stir in the small town, and the police struggled to take decisive action. However, investigators were eventually able to piece together the events leading up to Martha's death. They discovered that she had been walking around town with friends, including Tom and Michael Skakel, the nephews of Ethel Kennedy Skakel, the widow of the 35th President of the United States. The golf club used in the murder was also found near Martha's body, with the handle missing and engraved initials, suggesting it was a rare club. Tom and Michael were the last people to see Martha alive, and detectives found a set of similar golf clubs, one of which was missing, in the Skakel home. However, the Skakel family's lawyers made the investigation difficult, and it took 23 years for Michael Skakel to be charged in 1998. In 2002, he was found guilty and sentenced to 20 years in prison, although his motives for the crime remain unknown, but according to witnesses, he was jealous of Martha's relationship with Tom. The media heavily covered the story, and it has been referenced in popular culture. Dominic Dunn's novel A Season in Purgatory depicted the events surrounding the case, and in 2002, the film Murder in Greenwich was released, which focused on the story of Martha Moxley.
The murder of Yoshihiro Hattori is a tragic incident that occurred on the eve of Halloween. In October 1992, Yoshihiro, a student on an exchange program, and his friend, Webb Haymaker, attended a party in a Baton Rouge neighborhood. The two young men were unfamiliar with the area and wandered around the town for a while. Eventually, they arrived at what they thought was the right house and rang the doorbell. To their surprise, no one answered the door, and there was no sound coming from inside. Webb noticed that the side door was slightly open, and he went to investigate. Unfortunately, the friends had mistakenly gone to the wrong house and were at the home of Rodney and Bonnie Pierce. When Bonnie saw the visitors through the side door, she mistook them for burglars and shouted for her husband to get the gun. Rodney then grabbed the weapon, went outside, and saw Yoshihiro, who had stepped away from the door, but then approached him holding a camera. Pierce, mistaking the camera for a weapon, aimed and shot Yoshihiro, who didn't see the gun because he had forgotten to wear his contact lenses. Haymaker ran for help, but it was too late, and Yoshihiro died on the way to the hospital. The police questioned Mr. Pierce, but initially, they didn't press charges, believing he acted in self-defense. However, after protests from the governor of Louisiana and public scrutiny, the police charged Rodney with involuntary manslaughter. The defendant, however, denied his guilt and claimed he had mistaken Yoshihiro for a criminal and was protecting his home and life. The case sparked controversy, with some believing Pierce should be imprisoned for his behavior, while others saw him as innocent. In the end, he was acquitted by a jury, but was ordered to pay $650,000 to the parents of the deceased boy, of which he paid only $100,000. The incident was a tragic mistake caused by a misunderstanding that ended in the loss of a young life.
On October 31, 1981, the body of a 76-year-old nun named Tadia Benz was discovered in the St. Francis Monastery in Amarillo, Texas. She had been sexually assaulted, beaten, and strangled with a cord. The news of the brutal murder shocked the local community, and the police launched a massive investigation to find the culprit. The investigation was plagued with issues from the start, as the police were under intense pressure to solve the case quickly. With tensions running high in the city and locals pointing fingers at each other, the detectives rushed to find a suspect. Eventually, they turned their attention to a man named Johnny Frank Garrett, who lived across the street from the monastery. Several witnesses had reported seeing Garrett behaving suspiciously near the crime scene. According to their testimony, he appeared nervous, looked around furtively, and left in a hurry. Despite the lack of direct evidence, on November 9, 1981, the police charged Garrett with murder. In 1982, Garrett was tried and found guilty of the murder of Sister Benz. He was sentenced to death, which was carried out in 1992. Throughout the trial and until his death, Garrett maintained his innocence and proclaimed that he was being framed. After Garrett's execution, the case was largely forgotten by the public. However, in 2004, DNA evidence was discovered that proved Garrett's innocence. The tests revealed that another man, Leoncio Perez Rueda, was responsible for the murder of Sister Benz. Rueda was arrested and charged with the murder and rape of Sister Benz. In 2005, he was sentenced to 45 years in prison for his crimes. The revelation that Garrett had been wrongly convicted and executed shook the criminal justice system in Texas and raised questions about the validity of capital punishment. The case of Johnny Frank Garrett has since become the subject of numerous books, films, and documentaries, including Simon Rumley's 2016 film, Johnny Frank Garrett's Last Word.
Thank you for watching our video about 5 horrifying real-life Halloween murders. While Halloween is a night of fun and costumes, it's important to remember that real dangers can lurk in the shadows. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more informative and entertaining videos.